Welcome to Sister Friends. I'm Angie Gray here with my amazing friend,
Rashonda Young.
And together we're diving into what's at the heart of it all, relationships.
From finances and family to the ups and downs of life partnerships, and even those relationships we have with ourselves. We're here to talk about the real stuff.
We're not shying away from the hard conversations, we're leaning into them because we believe that when we start talking, we start understanding.
And when we understand, we grow in empathy, compassion, and connection.
So grab a seat,
grab a friend, and let's
get into it. Hi, everyone. I'm Angie Gray.
And I'm Rashonda Young.
And we are Sister Friends. So what we do before our episodes is we sit here and we chat about, okay, what are we going to talk about? And we have an idea. It's not, we have an idea and we talk about things prior, but we go over it and we get really excited about what we want to talk about. And today I think what we settled on is a conversation we've been talking so much about. And I think, we're really coming in our journeys, for me, back to the importance of using my experiences, my training, all that stuff, really including the work that we're doing here together in Sister Friends to talk about prevention education, along with Rashonda's journey, things that have been happening in my own health, your own health. It's pretty cool that we've been brought back to this. And so we love talking about prevention education.
We do.
So yesterday, through a slew of things, came up, we started talking about dementia, and that is my world that I live in and work in, my experience as a nurse and a coach and stuff. But it came up and I wanted to share a story that I talked about with Rashonda yesterday. So I have a coaching client who had a full corporate career. She is 42 now, had a full corporate career, was happy in her life. And her mom was diagnosed with dementia. And I'm not sure what kind of dementia exactly, but she was diagnosed with dementia pretty early. Mm-hmm. I want to say she must have been early 50s, I want to say. That could be wrong, but no, that would be wrong. Maybe somewhere around 60. Either way, pretty young. And so my friend who I'm coaching had to, over the last 3 years, she had to quit her job. She had to move her mom to a different place. Her whole life has been turned upside down. This is not an uncommon story. We hear this all the time. I don't think it's talked about enough. I'm happy that we are talking about it in our podcast. Yeah. So anyway, life has turned completely upside down for her. So now she stays home and cares for her mom. The expense is unbelievable. There's no way to really afford right now. What she can scrape by is having help one time a week.
Wow.
One time a week. And she has some help from family, but very, very little, and not specialized help. It's just like a warm body sometimes, but she has some help from an organization one day a week where that's also been its own problem, finding good quality care just for her to leave for one overnight, like once a month. Other than that, she is at home every single day.
Yep.
Gets to get up very early in the morning. Now she's doing some self-care, which has been part of our coaching, which has been great.
Good.
And so she's changing things around. Anyway, and that will be a good segue to talk about. I want to talk about your experience with your stepdad, but it's remarkable to see the difference between when I first met her a year ago and where she was at physically, mentally, spiritually, all of that, and the difference now when she has implemented self-care. And it took a while to get there because of all the roller coaster of emotions and just day-to-day things. But talk to me about your experience for yourself and your mom with your stepdad.
Yeah. So my stepdad, who is dad,
Yeah.
He and my mom were married for 45 years. So he's dad. And he was diagnosed with dementia. It was like sundown dementia.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, nighttime.
Yeah.
Once the sun's going down, you don't know what you're going to get. And that was probably about 3 years before he passed. And so I saw it take a really big toll on my mom. It was a really big toll with her trying to care for him, day in and day out. There were times during the day that he would have memory lapses. I remember one day he was driving by himself and my mom was not with him, and
Yeah.
he's at maybe McDonald's or somewhere, and he couldn't figure out where he was at or how to get home. And so some person, a random person there, was trying to help him, and they ended up calling me and just trying to get him back home, figure out where he's at, and getting him back
So
home. And
scary.
it's really scary. It's really, really scary, and it's so sad for those who are walking that path with the person with that condition, because you want to protect them
Yeah.
so much. And watching him, like, from that point forward, I don't think he ever wanted to go anywhere by himself.
He was probably embarrassed. And
And
did he
scared.
realize it then later what had
He
happened?
did.
Okay.
He did. And just really, it scared him.
Yeah.
It really scared him. And so just watching someone who, was strong and,
Yeah.
in a really clear mind and all these things end up, their cognitive function ending up declining, and walking that path is really, really stressful. And for my mom, there are things where, he's maybe putting, I don't know, soap in the refrigerator,
Yeah.
or, just things that, he's calling the remote control a telephone and trying to make calls, So it was hard, but the thing that I'm really grateful for, and it's something that you have to be so mindful of all of the time when you're dealing with someone who has cognitive decline, is like being very patient
Yes.
and loving and kind.
Yeah.
And when they repeat themselves, not, getting this attitude of, oh, you just told me this yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
just really being gentle and loving and kind with them. And I know from the caregiver standpoint, it can be quite frustrating at
Mm-hmm.
times
Mm-hmm.
because you're also probably exhausted
Yeah. Well, what about you? So
from the
you're taking
care.
care of your mom. Well, your mom was taking care of your dad. You were taking care of your mom and your dad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So, yeah, in 2023, when it was, so Will passed on a Thursday, and my mom ends up in the
Yeah.
hospital with AFib and congestive heart failure on that Sunday as I'm trying to prepare for his funeral. And then a month later, my dad gets diagnosed with cancer, and he's already dealing with Parkinson's and with the dementia piece of things. And so trying to make sure that they're both still okay. As my mom's only child, and even though my stepdad has children, I'm the only one who's here.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot, and I didn't realize how exhausted I was until the day after he passed.
Yeah.
And I was operating on adrenaline. So from basically June of 23 until, you can basically say, the end of November, 1st of December of 23,
Yeah.
it was, one, me dealing with my own grief, and then two, having to deal with, and when I say having to deal with, it was not a burden for me. It was a gift for me to be able to care for my parents. But I did not realize the toll it was taking.
No, you don't.
You just
Because
don't
you're in
realize it.
survival mode. You're doing what you got to do.
You are. And so my
Yeah.
mom, after he was diagnosed with cancer, and we were told there was nothing else they could do for him in October of 23.
Mm-hmm.
And so they came and stayed with me for 6.5 weeks, as we did in-home hospice care. And so during that time, during the day, my mom would be downstairs caring for him as I was upstairs working. And then around 7 or 8-ish, she would be tired. And so I wanted to make sure she could get her rest.
Yeah.
And so although I've been upstairs working, now it's my shift. And I come downstairs. And like I said, with sundown dementia, once the sun is going down, you don't know what you're going to get.
It's interesting. Isn't
You
it?
really don't know what you're going to get. And so a lot of times, I mean, he kept me up all night sometimes. And once again, it was a gift to care for him and to give my mom relief. But boy, did it take its toll on me.
Yeah.
And it was much more than I realized.
Yeah.
You know, emotionally as well. You know, you go through wanting to make sure that they feel dignified.
Yeah.
You don't want them to feel like there's no dignity.
Yeah.
There's so much care that you give and so many things that you never think you're going to have to do for your parents. And there's that line that you walk
Yeah.
of making sure or trying to make sure that they feel like there's dignity still with their lives. So
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I had the honor to take care of my dad. He had brain cancer, and 6 months of basically living there, homeschooling the kids at his house, and an honor, and that'll be another time. But that we think about the time that we spent with the people that we love, having this honor to take care of them. And then you think about just a whole nother level of the people that are taking care of loved ones that have this disease for years and years. And then, some people, I mean, it's such a huge issue. Most people can't afford to get, memory care help, and or cannot find a memory care facility or community that they feel comfortable taking their loved one to.
Right.
So they got to figure out at home, and home's not super affordable. I mean, it's just such a mess. And
it is a lot.
My gosh, so many people suffering. And the thing that I think I was going to ask you this is that so many people are suffering silently.
For sure.
For instance, I have a extended family member that is, and beyond this, just as top of mind, are taking care of their parent who has dementia. It's in the earlier stages, but it can quickly advance. And, they're not aware of resources. Thankfully, they know someone, and hopefully I can, and it's hard too, to be like, I'm not the know-it-all, I'm not whatever, but I definitely want them to be aware of the resources that are around them, because people don't want to burden other people. They don't even know where to go.
Right.
But there are so many amazing resources to just give you little tips on, like, to your point, you were talking about how important it is. The way that we speak to the person that we love with this disease is so important.
It is so
and
important.
it's just like a switch. If you say this versus this, the switch is going to be on and things are going to be great, or the switch is going to be off and it's going to be really challenging.
Absolutely.
Just these little things that these
It's
experts know that can share. Were you aware, of any resources, or did you guys just do it yourself and do the best could do?
We just did it ourselves.
Right.
And so my mom was doing it mostly by herself up until those last pretty much 6 months. And so I saw the toll it was taking on her.
Yes.
I saw, the amount of weight that she gained during that time, and just, lack of sleep. And it was so much. I was so concerned about her because I saw the toll it was taking, yet he wasn't comfortable, like, having other people caring for him.
Yeah.
So, for her, that was hard because pretty much it was either my mom or me. Or Ciante. He was very comfortable with Ciante caring for him, but he would not do well if it wasn't just a very small group of us. And so
And especially, I bet you in the evenings, right?
especially in the
Yeah, right.
evenings.
When that would kick in. Yeah, anything different is
Anything different.
scary. It's
Yeah. And
most people don't do
and
well.
then, there were times, the setup for us, and I believe you saw it because you
Yeah,
were around when he was still alive. And so when they're in my house and in my living room, so if we have right here, when you walk into the living room, you have his hospice bed.
yeah.
And then in the middle, kind of of the room, you have a recliner, which is where I would sleep at night. And then on the other end of the living room, there was a couch that my
Mm-hmm.
mom would sleep in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just in that structure, one, I will say it was probably very comforting for him,
Yeah,
just to have both of us there.
yeah,
That safe space of you're there.
yeah.
Um, but it is so difficult on the caregiver because
Mm-hmm.
I needed to be in a bed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
my mom also probably needed to be in a bed
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
during that time. But at the same time, it was like, his needs were so great
Yes.
that I knew my mom sleeps really hard. And so she's not probably, and she doesn't hear
Yeah.
as well as she should sometimes. And so
Yeah.
it just is what worked. And we didn't know resources in terms of dementia. He also, like I said, he was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And so we had in home hospice, and we had the hospice nurses that came in and out, but they didn't do anything in terms of dementia. It was really just about the cancer diagnosis and
Mm-hmm.
that piece of things. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Comfort, keeping
it
it
was
comfortable,
it was
pain.
that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was definitely a learning experience. And for
Sure.
those, like I said, my mom had cared for him for years. And then just for those 6 months or so, I mean, I felt it.
Yeah.
I definitely felt it. And so self-care is such a huge part of caregiving.
Yeah. Yeah.
We think so much about the other person, which we are supposed to.
Yeah.
But we have to think about ourselves, because if we pour out more than what we have to pour, then we're not going to be able to be there to actually help them
Oh,
anyway.
thank you. And there isn't
Right.
enough of you. It's not sustainable
It's not.
if you're certainly if you're not taking care of yourself. And
Right.
a lot of times, even when you are, I mean, and it is survival mode for too long.
Right.
So there's so many different onion peel layers to this. That the happy part. I mean, we could tell many, many stories about continue on talking about families taking care of their loved ones, but to segue into how do we change the way that we think about it so that we can change the way that we do things. It's so big, but honestly, there's so much good happening. First of all, the data shows that more women are going to end up with dementia than men. That, is just a piece of a very, very big problem that we will continue to talk about. The data, and the new way, in case you all haven't heard, is the new way of talking about dementia is type 3 diabetes. And many of you probably heard that. And that's because it is very, very, is very preventable. There are many, many things we can do to prevent that. We are not hopeless and helpless and just destined to all end up, having this disease and having families go through it with us. So the way that we think about that, we can be empowered to know there's so much that we can do to prevent ourselves from ending up with this disease. The other way of rethinking things, I mean, that's major, and we're going to talk about that. The other way of thinking is, I want to use your mom. I love her. Hi,
Yes.
Ro. And so many. So we're just going to pick on Ro. There's a not shame. It's not shame. There's a mindset. We're going to use that. There's a mindset around not wanting to burden people, so we don't ask for help.
Right.
The privacy part of it, I get it. And there is that. There needs to be dignity and that part, but not at the expense of actually the care that your person is able to get.
Yes.
This is so verklempt. Does that make sense to you when I say verklempt?
Mhm.
Okay. Um, not at the expense of the care that the person who is ill is getting, nor at the expense of the health of those that are caring for them.
Right.
That's just an old way of thinking that has to be changed. So that the first one is the power we have for prevention. The second one is the mindset around not asking for help and understanding there are resources and having the courage to seek them out.
Right.
And the third one that I'm so proud to say is in our industry, there are leaders within the industry of memory care, dementia, aging services that are challenging us all to think differently about how we think about the disease itself. How do what the technology, things that we can do, to assist families and better care, and to create spaces that are safe but also the really cool part is to engage the person with the disease, the person
Yes.
with the dementia, to have them be involved in their life, instead of telling them what they're going to do. It just looks so different than for sure
Yeah.
it would have looked even 5 years ago, to be
For
honest.
sure.
So many amazing, innovative things are happening. So it's really, really exciting time to be living and to be a part of this conversation. It gives
Right.
me hope as a 57-year-old woman who absolutely is going to do and is doing everything in my power to prevent myself or my family having to be in this position. But also for my mom, I think our
Mhm.
moms are about the same age.
Yeah.
For my mom, like I'm going to pick on my mom a little bit, not really pick on her, but actually more like me. So me being in this space, it was interesting. I mean, I am forgetful, and that's a whole menopausal thing, I hope.
Yeah.
But, but every time I'm forgetful, I think of it every single time. I'm like,
Mhm.
I can't,
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I didn't say something, some thought doesn't come up. But when we were all hanging out a few weeks ago, um, my daughter came in. It was for the Super Bowl, and we were all together, and my daughter came in, and actually she's a nurse in aging services.
Mhm.
She came in, and my mom was there, and we were all there. My mom went up to her and gave her a big hug. My mom is awesome. My mom is healthy
Yeah.
as an ox. She just
She's
got her
wonderful.
dementia. No, dementia. She just got her bone density scores back yesterday.
Yeah.
That has the bone density of a 20-year-old. I was shocked.
Wow.
That is shocking if you saw the way she eats. And okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
yay.
Yay,
Um,
mom.
yes. However, so
Mhm.
she's awesome. So great.
She
Active
is.
lifestyle, yes. But Shannon came in and my mom hugged her, and then we sat down, and then probably less than 5 minutes later, Shannon was walking by my mom, and my mom acted like she hadn't seen Shannon before. Now,
Mm.
I don't know if that was I don't know what that was, okay?
Mhm.
But my response to my mom was kind of, I mean, like we razz each other, right? I
Mhm.
mean, we do, or like, we all do in love, not mean, but like,
Right.
mom, what? You just talked to Shannon, 5 seconds
Yeah.
ago, And as soon as I did that, and it was probably, I shouldn't, I don't know what it was. So
Sure.
this is a weird space for me to be even talking about it. And my mom is fine. But that being said, the reality is I need to be paying attention to that. My mom is 78 years old and she is aware, right?
Sure.
She is aware.
Absolutely.
So we are having these conversations. So that's
Good.
wonderful. Um, so the thought was for myself is, oh, Angie, you can't respond to your mom like that anymore.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
like, yeah, it's
It's
just a
it,
weird
it's it's
place.
it's difficult because that's how you're used to communicating and
Yeah.
interacting.
And having
But
fun with each other,
yeah, then there's that shift that you have
yeah,
to be conscious of.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have friends in the dementia and aging services and memory care, and they have. We will share. Don't we forget? I'll put their Instagram channels, if that's what we call them. We call them channels. Yeah, on
Oh,
in the description of this. But they're amazing, incredibly resourceful people that have all of the trips and or tips and ways to be able to communicate with your loved one that just will change your life if you're caring for someone.
Yeah.
And things to be mindful, including myself,
Mm-hmm.
of when we have aging parents. And we start to see shifts, even what
Yeah.
to look for. So we'll include those resources here. But
Mm-hmm.
um, talk to me about anything that's coming to mind. Let's switch back into the prevention piece of it for our health.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to start with something around
Yeah.
that?
So there's some things that are pretty basic. One is being active.
Yeah.
I think we sometimes underestimate the value of keeping our bodies active, um, and then also our minds active.
Yeah.
And my mom puzzles, lots of puzzles, reading, continuing to read. She'll read the tags on the backs of all of your clothes if you let her, like just things that we know are important for memory care.
Yeah.
Of course, your diet, making sure you're not, having a bunch of glucose spikes and we talk about type 3 diabetes as the name that it's often referred to now. And so, being mindful of that piece of things, because as we were talking about genetics and epigenetics,
Yep.
so genetics being, the things that are passed down in our genes. And so often we think, oh, well, my mom had this and my grandmother had this or whatever may be the case. Only about 5% of the diseases that we end up having are because of genetics.
Isn't that exciting?
Right?
It's very
That's
exciting.
very exciting because
Yep.
it means that we have a lot of control over the things that happen.
Yep.
Because epigenetics, which is all those things outside of genetics, so your sleep, your diet, your lifestyle, your stress, all these things that have nothing to do with genetics. When we think about different things that run in families, the reason why oftentimes things are running in families is because families are doing the same things.
Yes, that's
So,
right. They're eating the same way.
Yeah.
Their lifestyles are similar.
And we're handling stress the same way.
Yes.
This is how we saw it handled, and this is what we do. So,
Which will actually segue to the next part of it when we were talking about picking on your mom a little bit, but so many of us, just the mindset that we have about asking for help.
yeah,
That is a whole thing, right?
it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, looking at the lifestyle piece of things, sleep. Oh my goodness. For those that are watching in their 30s and 40s and 50s, whatever, but especially those younger people, when I look at various studies, I mean, dementia isn't something that starts, today and
That's right.
then, you've just got it. It starts 20 years.
It's like every other degenerative disease.
Yes. It starts years beforehand.
Yeah.
And, are you sleeping? How are you managing your stress? Like all of that plays a role in our brain health.
Yeah.
And we think oftentimes when we're young, oh, I'll deal with this when I'm older. And it's like, you're actually dealing your cards right now.
Yes.
And what hand are you going to be able to play when you get older? Like you're dealing it now.
Yes.
And so just being mindful that the non-genetic things that we do are so important.
Yeah. And if I had to name one, and somebody can tell me if I'm wrong, but if I had to pick one thing, it would be nutrition. Like the one thing that would have the greatest impact as far as prevention of any degenerative disease. But speaking on dementia, it would be your nutrition, because like you were just saying, with our insulin sensitivity, that has everything to do. I mean, it's all connected. Our gut health is our brain health. It's the same thing. And it matters now. It matters right now for the 20-year-old children that are listening, or my kids.
Yeah.
It matters right now what we're putting into our body, all of it. It's so important, but it's so empowering to know that it's not a death sentence. We are not, just all gonna, get it, just, luck of the draw.
Right.
Certainly there are people that still will get sick with something that take care of themselves. But man, we have so much power
We do.
within our understanding of what we can do to prevent. Yeah, so nutrition is so important. Like what comes to me now too is, bringing up the younger generation, but my age people, what we can be doing, all of us, is eating foods that aren't going to spike your insulin. So
Mm-hmm.
what Rashana said earlier, your insulin sensitivities, and we all know these things. Um, that's a whole mindset around it too. Just doing the things so that you don't have to wait till it happens. And then prevention, an ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure. I mean, we're telling you these stories to wake us up,
Mm-hmm.
Marianne Williamson tells a story I just shared the other day about why does she keep making these videos all the time? Why does she put these videos up every single day? Same reason why I post every day. Reason why we put these episodes out every Monday is because it is our responsibility to one another to
Right.
keep each other awake to
Mm-hmm.
the to the truth as we know it. So what
Right.
we're sharing is the truth as we understand it because we love you.
Right.
And it's our responsibility to take care of one another. So yeah, there's so much that we can do
Yeah.
to prevent. Oh, so back to the other thing that is really empowering that I'm doing now. I've lifted weights for many, 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 many years, and you have too.
Mm-hmm.
What I love that I'm hearing about prevention of dementia is for women in particular. I don't know the data out there for men as much as women, but for us to be lifting weights, heavy weights. So
Mm-hmm.
I even talked to my mom the other day. So my
Yeah.
mom's like, it really just has not done a whole bunch of things consistently in her life. But you wouldn't know that, to see
Not to
her,
see her.
right?
No.
But we had this conversation that she hates having, and I maybe am annoying, but, just a reality check. And it's that same reality check is always to me as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is listen, if you fall and break a hip, you're pretty much just going to die. I mean, at my mom's age, if you fall and you break a
Mm-hmm.
hip, that's
That's what the
just
statistics show.
statistics will tell you that you're probably not going to
It's
live a
funny you
whole
said.
heck
My
of a
mom and
lot.
I were just talking about this last
Really?
night.
Really?
And
Yes.
she's the one who brought it up.
She did.
She
Good.
brought it up.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And yeah, it was so good. I'm thankful that
Yeah.
she's mindful
Okay.
of
So I'm
that.
glad we're talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so to be able to take care of your strength now. So I go, Mom. I'm so proud of her. She ordered a weighted vest. So I go,
Good.
yeah, start with a 10-pound weighted vest, get the little pockets that can go in it, walk around the house for 15 minutes, 3 times
Mm-hmm.
a day with this vest on.
Yep.
You don't have to get crazy. But when I told her 50 pounds, I go, Mom, it would be great for you to work up to 50 pounds. And a cool thing is I would encourage you to follow Dr. Stacy Sims. She's my latest crush, healthcare doctor crush. Dr. Stacy Sims on Instagram. She's amazing.
She's amazing.
But I was just telling my mom, or what I've learned is that women, our body composition takes a while to shift as we get older, but our strength, we can gain strength pretty quickly.
Yes, we can.
So yes, and so I'm like, Mom, you just
Mm-hmm.
get strong. You can't do these 5-pound weights, forever. Walks are great. Yes, they're great for so many things, but not for you, for your balance. They're not great for your strength. They're not great for your balance. So anyway, it was a great conversation, and so encouraging to know that even at my mom's age, you can shift a ton.
Yeah.
In your 70s, you can change a ton for that next 20
Absolutely.
years that you're alive, or 15 years, or however amount of years that we're here,
Absolutely.
that they are spent feeling good in
Yes.
abundance. Like, I know your mom, you know my mom, and none of us wants to spend any of our time being sick.
No.
So anyway, my little tangent there, but
Yeah. And then there's one of the things from my Florida trip, one of the things that I think we did it twice. Well, it was offered twice a week. It's called neurosize. And so like exercise, but it's brain exercise.
Love
It's
it.
neurosize. And it was so good because it challenged it challenged you with balance. It challenged you with being able to like have your brain shift from like your left side of your brain activity to your
Yeah.
right side activity, and really firing off like all parts of your brain. And it was something that a lot of the older people who were there ended up going to, because you physically did get a bit of a workout with it, but it was the brain piece of it. I mean, the physical workouts
Like
that I
what? Give
did.
me an example.
So one example, it's hard to do one without moving the mic. So I'm just going to move the mic for a minute.
Okay.
And this is a pretty simple.
Should I hold your mic?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So for one, it would be like, okay, every day just kind of warming up your wrists. And so we're warming them up. We're going forward. We're going side. We're going forward. We're going side. And then it's like, okay, now one forward, one side, one forward, one side. Switch.
It's like
And
rubbing your tummy and tapping your head.
It's right. And then it's like there was another where it's called like ipsi and contra. And so ipsi would be where I'm moving my right leg and right arm at the same side. Contra is if I'm moving my left leg and my right arm at the same side, at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it would be like, okay, the instructor's like, okay, ipsi. So we're walking ipsi and then contra. Now we're walking.
You gotta switch it up.
And so you're having to switch up. And you work a lot of times with a partner on things. And there were various things where it may be like, okay, you're going to be like a robot. And so I then am going to position your arm this way. And then I may position your arm that way. And I may like lift your leg so that you have to balance on one leg. And so I'm positioning and doing all these things. And it's challenging your partner to be able to have balance as well.
Oh, I see where you're saying.
So I may need to like pull your arm this way, but your feet have to stay stable, which means
that is so good.
It was so
very
good.
Functional. Yeah.
It was very functional. It's working on the balance. It's really working on the brain.
Okay.
You could probably look up neuroscience.
I was going to say, like, what could people look up to just find, and to not get overwhelmed with all this stuff, but it doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much.
It's just consistency.
And it's so fun. I mean, there were a couple of the older people who were there who, they were just a little off balance or whatever. Yeah. And they were coming to the class and they were loving it.
That's so fun.
And you could see from class to class how they were progressing.
Really?
It was really great.
That is so
It was really great.
That's awesome.
But it was good for everyone. So you just saw people from, 30s to 80.
Yeah. And doing something like that every day, you don't have to do, what's it called again?
Neurosize.
Neurosize. I love that. I don't know what they recommend, but it would seem like the tendency might be for folks, and myself included, that it's easy for me to get excited and then overwhelmed. So to be able to just implement something every day, be consistent. And if it was neurosizing, it might just be 3 to 5 minutes or 5 minutes every day, just to do something. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really interesting. Try to remind me, and I'll put that in the notes too, just as a reminder. Yeah. That's cool. So talking about the prevention physically, the mindset around, I think, talking about how do we help people shift out of the mindset that, using your mom again, and so many people that, I don't know why do we do this, but I think it's having these conversations. It's sharing this podcast to say, hi, I'm 57. Hi, Rashonda's almost 50.
Almost.
Couple more weeks. We're there. Like, you're going to get ARP.
Oh, I already have it. And I'm
already ahead. Yeah, you should.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, you should. You should.
Right.
But we're all going to get there, and it starts right now where we're at. And if you're my age or older, whatever, it's not too late to start. Oh my gosh. But the mindset piece, I think, is having these kinds of conversations. Yeah. We are all connected. It is our responsibility, like we talked about. So we hope that, and I'm not ready to close yet, but we hope that you all will share this podcast for that reason. Share any of the links that we put in here. I promise you, if you don't know someone that personally in your life that has dementia, or know a friend or someone in your community that has dementia or is caregiving, you will. You 100% will. So share this. You never know who is going to need this in
Right.
this moment. So we really appreciate that. And that's how we share. That's how we change up the way we're thinking about dementia in the way our mindset about, is it okay to ask for help? Is there guilt around that? Does that make me weak? Does that make me not
Yeah,
be able to have the capacity to care for my loved one? Absolutely not. It needs to be a conversation that nobody's afraid to talk about.
it is. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I will say that was difficult because my mom started to notice signs with my dad.
Mm.
Uh, it was so much shame on his part that he was going to doctor's appointments and he was hiding
Oh, for sure. Yes,
that,
yes.
what was going on. So he was hiding
Yeah,
it for, I'm not sure how long.
yeah,
And so that's also sad
it
because
is.
there was all that time that he was walking that journey by himself.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
was no one that he was confiding in.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
a lot to carry.
It's,
That's a big burden to carry because that's when we were talking about the green zone of safety, this, orange red zone of fight or flight, and then this like top level blue zone of helplessness
yeah,
that people start to feel. And I feel like that's probably where he was at.
yeah. She's
Um,
referring to something we were talking about before we started recording, but a friend of hers is studies this, or she's in
yeah.
psychotherapy, and she was just sharing the different levels of, can you just share it maybe without color so it's not confusing, like one level, second level, third level?
Yeah. So there's a level where our bodies feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's that safe zone for you? Like, for me, like my happy place, my safe zone is when I'm in my garden,
Mm-hmm.
or when like I'm with my closest family members or friends.
Mm-hmm.
Those are safe spaces and safe zones where I feel good. My body feels good and
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
And then there's this fight or flight where I'm maybe anxious or fearful or maybe even a little panicky about something. And we can stay in that zone for a little bit, but not very much. Like, you get into that zone sometimes when you're preparing for something big, like
Yeah.
a performance where, you get a little anxious,
Yep.
but you come back down out of
And
that
so
and
like, this is just for a temporary thing. I'm going to do this thing and it's going to be done. And
Right.
okay.
You're still in this point of like, I can handle this. I can handle this.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to this point where it's like, it's just chronically this high level of stress.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, you start to get this mindset of, I can't.
Yeah.
And when you start to get this mindset of, I can't, that's when you are in this place of whether it be depression or shame or feeling trapped and, just hopeless feelings.
Yeah.
And it can be very difficult to come down from there.
Yes.
And when you look at the paths that people go throughout life, like, yeah, we all go up and down. But if we can stay out of that top
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
as much as possible,
Yeah.
or if you get there, figuring out how do I come back down? Where is that happy place
Yes. Yes.
that brings me back down? Because in that top level, you stay there for too long, and the diseases that are laying dormant oftentimes manifest
Yes.
because we've stayed in that top zone for too long.
Oh my gosh,
and we don't know
Rashonda.
how to come out of it.
Thank you. So the differentiator, this is coming to me in my experience, the differentiator between, going from this middle level to going back down to your happy place, or the middle place going up to the place of no return, if I may.
Yeah.
This would be in my world in executive nurse leadership and coaching these folks. And when we talk about nurses being, what happens is they get there because of all this other stuff and they find no hope.
Yeah.
I got here, but this one event, like we were talking about an event, let's just compare it to, I'm getting ready to speak on stage. Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm been preparing for whatever long time of getting these feelings. I want to do my best, all these things, but I know it's going to go away.
Right.
But for caregivers, for dementia folks,
Yeah.
or caregivers as in nurses,
Yeah.
or caregivers as in whatever, what happens is those events just keep coming. The ones that you would normally think, oh, I'm going to get over it. Well, they don't. It doesn't get better. They hope that it's going to get better, and it doesn't. They hope it's
Right.
going to get better. somebody lets them down. They hope it's going to get better. The diagnosis gets worse. They hope it's going to get better, and they just keep going down. So here, and so they find themselves up here in
Yeah.
burnout, whatever way we're going to call it burnout.
Yeah.
And when burnout is happening, when you're in that state of burnout, my gosh, this is so good. Applies to all my nursing people. It applies to all of us.
Yeah.
Is when you get in that nursing thing, which we have talked about so often, is burnout. That is when the disease happens because your stress is so high.
Yes.
The number one cause of degenerative diseases of all kinds is stress.
Absolutely.
If you do not get out of that zone, you will find yourself not very, very challenging to get back to your happy place. So anyway, the differentiator there that I have found is you get help.
Right.
That's the differentiator. You get
Right.
help. For me in my work, it is I get to be the help. I get to be the coach. I get to
Right.
give you the lifeline. And it doesn't
Yes.
take much. So let's go to the caregiver of a dementia care patient. Think of the difference that it might have made for your mom during that time. Thank God that your dad didn't have to suffer. He
Right.
wasn't here with us on this planet for years and years and years suffering. Too long probably,
Right.
you know, but what could have the difference been for your mom's well-being? I mean, we're just playing this
Yeah.
game right now, but would she maybe not have spent that time in the hospital? What could it have meant for
Could have been.
you? And
Right.
horrible stress that you went through. I can share with you, my friend, that I started sharing with you, and my client that I'm coaching. I'm not kidding. If you had a graph, I don't even know if that's how it would be best represented, but a year ago, challenging to coach someone that is, because you don't get to tell them what to do, just like us in someone else's lives that we love. We don't get to tell them what to do.
Right.
She had to find her way, but she was also sort of in this world. So she luckily had me, and then I was coaching her, not, you know what I'm saying, just someone to say, here, what about this idea?
Right.
What about getting this kind of help?
Right.
She also said yes to the help. So that is so good that you shared that. So your friend,
Yes.
man, she didn't even know what a blessing that was going to be to share that in your meeting last night.
Right.
But, to be able to share that that's the differentiator is so important. So getting those resources out, that's how we change things. We have these conversations. We have podcasts that talk about it.
Right.
We talk about it at the dinner table. We are not, it's just like when someone dies, you don't want to be afraid to ask that person how they're doing,
Right. To ask their loved ones.
You
Yeah.
don't
You
want to
don't
be afraid
know.
to say, how are you doing? How can I help? I'd love to bring you a meal, anything at all. But the more conversations we have and the more we change the way we think about all three aspects that we've talked about today, that's how we move forward.
That is how we move forward.
My gosh.
Yeah. And just in being, transparent
Yes.
with what it is that we're going through.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sharing our stories. We just said that.
Sharing our stories.
That are never just
and trying
for
to
us.
help someone else prevent some of the hardships that we've gone through.
Yes.
Yes. I would truly, I think about the business owners I work with and the amount of stress that they're under a lot of times. And it's not just one stress though, it could be the business stress, and then it's the home life stress. And then the kids aren't doing what they're, supposed to do, your relationship with your partner, your spouse, whatever all these things, sometimes financially, it could be all these things.
And it is all these things,
all these
right?
things that pile up on us.
Yeah.
So how do we come back down before, getting the call saying, sorry, you have cancer?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how
Do you know that the word that keeps coming to me that thankfully it came again is the word community. And community is how we lift each other up. Community is how we remind each other of our worth and our value.
Right.
Community is how we serve out our purpose. And when we don't have purpose, community is the answer to so many things,
Absolutely it is.
And one more thing, we could keep going on because this is such a great topic. This is coming to mind. Thank you for bringing up the business thing because this triggered this thought in me. So this is, we're not meaning just dementia. We're talking about dementia, but again, preventing us from getting ill. Prevention is within our power and our capacity to do things differently, to think differently.
Right. Yeah.
I'm always saying stuff about my marriage. But last night, was talking about something to our son Levi, and they worked together, and it came back to me, and it was something negative that Todd had said, and it came back to me, and I asked him about it, and he was really forthcoming and said, I shouldn't have talked like that. I shouldn't have said that, which was really, really big, really, really big right there. But I ended up saying to him, love, I know that you need to sort of let the pressure out of the balloon, if you will, let some of the air out because it's so tight. That balloon is so full, meaning all the stress in there is so tight. I know that that's what happens. And what happens is if you're not taking care of yourself, it will come out some way. It will show up some way. And it doesn't even just mean right now in an illness. It could mean in a toxic way that you're showing up to the world,
Absolutely.
a toxic way you're talking about yourself, a toxic story you're telling yourself about a situation or a person.
Right.
So, even just
So
saying
true.
to Todd yesterday, love, you don't even have to tell me. Okay. And this applies to caregivers for dementia families. You don't even have to tell everybody all the details of what you're feeling. Like I said to Todd, babe, you don't have to tell me everything that you're feeling. Like we don't have to have big, long stories. You can, but so often we're just too tired. People are just too tired to, but if you feel safe enough with someone in your life that you can say, I'm not having a great day today.
Yeah.
Today has really been shitty. Or I am really down and I don't know how to get up. I don't know what to tell you how to help me. But just letting someone know is less isolating, feels less lonely.
It does, right?
And it can be a catalyst to the next step.
Yes.
Of not being so scared to be vulnerable.
Right.
All right. Anyway. All right. Well, let's wrap up. That is so much. This was so good. Thank you so much.
Well,
Please tell whatever friend that was that shared with you in your business meeting last night that she ended up helping a lot of people.
Yeah. Renelle Langley is her name. Yeah.
Who?
Renelle Langley.
Okay.
So, Renelle Langley.
Thank you, Renelle. Thank you guys for being with us. Please do share any of the podcasts that we're doing.
And like and subscribe.
Yes, please like and subscribe. That really helps. We will be getting our podcast on Spotify, so that might be helpful to folks. But we appreciate you so much. Thank you for everything and all of your support.
Yeah.
I'm Angie Gray.
And I'm Rashonda Young.
And we are
Sister
Friends.
Thanks for tuning in to Sister Friends. We hope these conversations help you see things from a new angle, feel a little more connected, and maybe even laugh along the way.
Remember, whether it's family, work, or those elephants in the room we all deal with, everything really is about relationships.
If you enjoyed this episode, let us know. Share your thoughts, share this podcast with a friend, and let's keep building those connections.
Until next time, stay connected, stay curious, and let's keep growing together.